Hello, I'm Louise Roe and welcome to the SheerLuxe show. Today's show is all about parenting, from looking at the very best of high street fashion to chatting about nutrition for all the family and more. Plus, see what it takes to get the perfect shot when you have 3 children and 1 dog on a shoot. But first, let me introduce our wonderful guests. I'm joined by clinical psychologist and author Dr. Emma Svanberg and nutritionist and Sunday Times best-selling author 3 times over, Charlotte Stirling-Reed, plus author and friend of SL Tobi Asare. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
What a lineup, 3 authors. I love this. Emma, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, great.
I'm really excited about your new book. In fact, I feel like I might forget to host on this show because I'm all ears. And just as a parent and going back to school next week, we were just saying, there's an element of anxiety to it, not just for the kids, but
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yes. So your book is called Parenting for Humans.
It is.
Yes. Can you tell me about the title first of all?
Yeah, I'd love to. So it came out of, I've been working as a clinical psychologist for nearly 20 years, or working with parents in various different guises. And one of the things that I've really noticed over those years is that even though we have so much information now about parenting, actually lots of parents are more anxious than ever. So
I guess I just proved that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautifully. But I think what I really wanted to get across is that often there is a kind of step missing when we talk about parenting. So we talk about what to do with our children, but we don't really talk about how it impacts on us as people. And of course, we are humans before we become parents. We are whole people with whole lives that we have lived before we have children. Yeah. So the book is really about understanding ourselves so that we can then better understand what our children need and sort of separate out what is ours from what is theirs.
I've read it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's game-changing.
I'm
loved
adding
it.
this to my cart.
Yeah.
I feel like I need it too.
It's out now.
So brilliant.
It's out now,
I'm actually going to buy this right after the show.
Oh, wonderful.
So you look at perfectionism syndrome, parenting ideal versus the reality, how to parent well as a couple, that's a really interesting one, whether you're together or perhaps separated, parenting fears and how to rise above it, and burnout. Oh my God, did you?
We need this book. I need this book.
Well, I wrote it for, these are the kind of things that I see from parents day in, day out. And I think initially the first part of the book is all about understanding your own childhood and what you bring to your parenting journey from your own experience. Because so often we read this parenting advice and we don't quite know how to apply it to ourselves, and of course we come with so many beliefs and values, and we also have relationships both with our own parents or caregivers. We might be in a partnership, we have friends, community. All of those things have such a huge impact on how we are as parents, but we don't ever talk about that, right? We just talk about, here's a parent, here's a child, you do this, and then the child will do that. And then when the child doesn't do that, you go, oh, what do I do now?
But also, like, what is a parent? Because I feel like all of us are just thrown into this thing of like, here you go, here's your child, now you're a parent, and we're all just like, what do I actually do? So it's amazing that you've written this book that actually takes you back to figure out, right, where does that all stem from, and then how do you build yourself up as a parent? Because
and what do I want? How do I want to be as a parent? What kind of values are dear to me, rather than what are the kind of messages or information or advice that is just out there that actually often doesn't really fit with your own family.
I was just going to say that's so contextual to today's society, and 20 years is a long time, so I imagine it's changed a lot even in that time.
Yes, so much.
And I think as a working mum, my God, I would love some advice, because you're feeling guilty one moment or all moments, and the burnout thing. And I think that we are a generation of women that, you know, you see the memes about it. Our mums and our grannies fought for us to be able to have it all. And now we're like, oh shit, this is really
now
hard.
We've got too much.
Yeah, exactly. And a social life too. Are you having a laugh?
Yes.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot, and there's such high expectations, right? And I think in some ways we have these beautiful idealised images of what our family life is going to be like. And then almost as soon as you become pregnant or as soon as you bring a baby home, it's like, oh, wow, this is nothing like how I expected. And you've got to very quickly rewrite a story of what your family is going to be like. And then, of course, you're changing all the time. Your child is changing all the time, their needs. You know, so
it's
there's
rewriting that story, like on the fly as you go. And like you say, then adding in work, and then adding in friendships, and then adding in trying to drink water, and then adding in all the other things it was supposed to do.
The analogy of the 4 hobs burning or whatever whatever it is, and you can't keep them all. And that I found very helpful, because it's like the sort of permission to, I don't want to use the word fail, but to not have all 4 hobs burning at once is normal and okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that this time of year can be really stressful for parents, particularly because, I mean, we were talking before we started filming, right, about WhatsApp chats and the pressure to kind of have everything ready and everything right. And, you know, you might have that from loads of different places all at the same time. What I talk about quite a lot in the book is this idea that we kind of enter into parenting as something to do. So we can have these constant kind of to-do lists in our mind all the time, and then we might add to that and drink your water and exercise and make sure that you have a date night with your partner, or all of these things that we often don't realise are really subconsciously adding huge amounts of pressure to our daily life and, you know, really give us so much capacity to fail. So there's always going to be something where at the end of the day you end up feeling like there's something that dropped off that list, or there was something that you planned to do that you never got around to doing. But actually, if you can focus on letting go of the doing and just think about how you want to be as a parent, how do I want to show up? How do I want to, for example, prepare my children as they're going back to school? How do I want to feel that we have marked the end of summer holidays, maybe? So that you're doing it from a position of values and connection and relationship, rather than just a series of tasks that you have to achieve.
It's so hard though, isn't it? Because you still do have to achieve a lot on of your to-do list. And I mean, I always get to the end of the day and I think, oh, I didn't do that, I didn't do that, I didn't do that. And it's, you know, it's again that guilt thing. So you've got guilt with children, you've got guilt with work, you've got guilt with home life, you've got guilt with your husband, you've got guilt with your to-do list. So you still do have to get through them. But I do love that idea of just being rather than what's the next thing.
Also, because when you're thinking about the next thing, it's really hard to be present. And in some ways, which is something that I often talk to clients about, what happens when you don't do all of the things on the list? Actually, often the world doesn't fall apart.
Absolutely.
You know, if you get the school uniform the night before, it's stressful, but, you know, there are always solutions to be found. And often when you really tune into what you feel like you need in those moments, actually those solutions come to you much more easily anyway, because you're more relaxed.
I feel like I need you
present.
in my ears every day. It's so wise. I love that thing about that to-do list. I've started doing a bit of a rolling to-do list, just knowing that I'm never going to get it all done. So I'll look back at yesterday's list and I'll put the things that I didn't achieve. I'll just pop it on the next day's list and just feel
and it'll
at peace.
happen. I think knowing that parenting is this lifelong process.
Absolutely.
Because we often wake up in the morning and we think, right, we've got to kind of smash it today. And then we wake up the next day and then we do it all over again. And actually, parenting is a lifelong relationship with a very complicated human being. So being able to really pause and actually connect in those moments becomes so important, because often we can just think, well, I'll do it tomorrow. You know, when I finish the to-do list, then I can do something that feels connecting or rewarding, but actually we have to take those moments to do it right now, and it makes the whole process so much more pleasurable and joyful when we can actually enjoy it.
A bit slower, I think,
and
slowing
much
down.
slower.
That does resonate with me, and I also think as a productive person, you think, you know, imagine your working day, there are deadlines, calls happen when they're set to happen, you achieve most of what you've wanted to achieve, and then parent life, complete opposite. And so I remember a podcast I listened to not long ago where she's also a working mum, and she said, you know, there's no productivity from sitting down and playing. There's no end goal. It's not going to tick anything off your list. And that was a real I was like, it sounds so silly, but when your brain is calculating, like, okay, finish, tick, to stop and do something that has no goal.
It's kind of purposeless.
Exactly,
right?
but so important, and the most important thing.
Yeah.
But you have to, like you've just said, go, okay, I'm coming at this with values, not, it's not a list. It's just, it's a moment with my child that they're going to really enjoy. You know, even if you're crap at playing.
Which everybody is, right? Everybody is.
Some, you can get the odd dad. I'm like, wow, you really like this.
But there is, I mean, it also comes into gender roles. We were talking about the Barbie movie upstairs, you know, and, you know, one of the things that I talk about in the book is the co-parenting relationship. Actually, girls and those who are socialised as women are often brought up without much playfulness. So to then come into a relationship with a child where you have to let go of your sensibilities, it's really difficult. So all of those things can really come into it and impact on how we kind of feel with our children, how we are able to show up with our children. There's a lot of unpicking that it involves.
Wow, that was so interesting. Thank you for enlightening us. I can't wait to read it. Okay, if you're in need of a bit of fashion inspiration for the new season ahead, look no further. SL's Emma Bigger and Laura Black have found the best picks out there. From baby to tween, they've got you covered.
So Emma and I have come to Oxford Street. It is the end of the summer holidays, beginning of the new season, back to school. So we've come to have a look at Mango and Zara to see what's in store for the kids this time. We're going to start in girls.
I think denim dungarees are always a good buy.
Oh, you've got some full dungies, yeah.
Like, they're just so wearable.
I always find at the end of the summer their clothes are trashed. So I like these kind of lightweight jumpers actually for now that they can, you know, put with a pair of denim shorts as it gets a bit cooler. So my rule is that I buy within a colour palette, and then there's not too much room for error. Then they're left to their own devices and you can't go too wrong. Still trying to hold on to that control. It's waning.
I love all their little frilly shirts, like these kind of things. Like, I think they're just such nice soft cotton. I also think they do like these kind of puffer things really well, you know, over the top for weekends and stuff when the weather gets a bit cooler.
Really sweet.
I don't know why I hold it up.
Yes.
I hold it up to myself.
I always think white tops are quite hard to find for little girls. They usually have something on them which I don't like, but I like that with the little
But
frill.
would you buy a white top?
100%.
You would?
Yeah, always.
So it not just get trashed?
I just think they go with everything. Oh, cute. I remember these from last time. I love
So
those.
nice. That's quite a good puffer, isn't it? That could be girls
That
or
is
boys,
nice.
actually.
Yeah, I like that. I'm doing a supermarket sweep on shoes. Those are cute.
I've got a very Frenchy little outfit here.
Oh, that's really sweet. Look at that collar.
Quite cute, isn't it? That little
Oh,
set.
that's sweet colours.
Yeah, nice.
Love the yellow.
So now we're going to move on to the boys section. I struggle with my boys because all they want to do is wear tracksuit bottoms and sweatshirts. But when I shop for them, I always buy really like oversized things because I just think it looks cooler, it lasts longer. I do think the selection for boys is trickier.
Simple Breton.
Yeah,
That's
classic
nice.
stripes always good. And even that with like loose kind of tracky B style trousers.
So are you more classic or more street?
I think I go for like classic like stripes and things, but then I go oversized, which makes it feel a bit more street.
Yeah.
It's quite cool. I like those
That's nice.
logo sweatshirts
Yeah, I love that.
for boys. This is all Spider-Man. I think that like a tank like that could be quite handy. Like with chinos and maybe a tee could be quite cool.
What I'm really wanting to look at is this baby stuff.
Oh,
Come on.
Wow.
That with little white tights.
So cute.
Or little socks, frilly socks.
And I love all this knitwear.
Oh, I
It's, like,
love
soft
that. Oh, look
knitwear.
with
It's
that
so
as well
cute.
underneath.
Oh, so nice.
I used to always have mine in a little Peter Pan collar, and they can get really expensive. Those are $9.99.
Yeah,
that's really good
really
value. Picking up the entire baby section. They are so good. Socks are a nightmare when you have babies. If you're gifting stuff, that's my top tip. Little leggings with feet.
So we've had a big old styling session and we've come up with our top favourite looks from each section. I'm going to start with the little baby boy. This cute little knitted dungaree shorts and this gorgeous little grey button cardigan. I just think that's so sweet. And these little shoes to match. And then just going up to kind of more toddlers, these grey denim dungarees. I think they're a really nice wash. And I just put a really simple white top under that. And then finally for the bigger boy, I love this kind of oversized vest with these cool chinos, which I'd probably roll up a bit more, just with these cool shoes. I think that's a really nice everyday weekend look for a bigger boy.
Girls, the choice here is amazing in Mango, but this is just so sweet. I think this Liberty print, the little collar, super cute. And then for little girls, we're going with the Dungies again, but in this really gorgeous pale yellow with this cheesecloth, a little collar again, and this little Divine Bear rucksack, which is so gorgeous. And then for bigger girls, we've kind of gone simple, a wide leg jean, a Breton stripe, and then I think these are our favourite piece, which would work now into the winter with chunky socks. So Mango, you've done us well, and now we're going to head to Zara and see what they've got in store. So we are in Zara. There's obviously a theme to what I'm drawn to.
Oh, I love that jacket. It's so cute.
How cute.
I love this. Look how cute.
Oh my God, Divine, love that colour.
So sweet.
Frilled dungarees. That's really cute. I love that.
Yeah, that's super cute. I love that as well.
Yeah, that's nice colours
So
actually. Is that
sweet.
built in?
Yeah, that's connected.
Yeah, they're lovely. That's also cute with some wide leg jeans and
Yeah,
a bit of
cute.
colour. I think they managed to do kind of on trend without it being over the top. When they're little, you can get nice classic pieces with a Peter Pan collar that makes it a bit more elevated than other high street shops. Would you agree?
I
And
agree,
it's just
yeah.
like a great price point.
And actually, even when they do like logo-y things, like they do it in quite a cool way.
I was actually about to say, I went to a party the other day and this little girl walked in and she was wearing this oversized with little grey leggings.
Yeah.
She had a top knot. She was about 1.5. She had a top knot out here, toddled in. She had these big trainers on and that jumper. She looked so cool. She looked like she was off to a festival. These aren't going to be the most exciting pick, but my niece had these on holiday this year and they look cool with a little crop tee. She managed to still look like a little girl, but on trend.
Oh, it's really nice colour.
Yeah, and like it's like really
Fleecy inside.
pretty inside.
Oh look, silver trousers.
So this is really trend led. Look at that.
Yeah.
The silver trousers. Okay, boys. So I buy my son a lot of the trackies from here and a lot of their sweatshirts.
Yeah, the sweatshirts I think are really good. Just like the classic plain crew neck sweatshirts. But like they're, you know, that's just a normal trackie, but
Yeah.
it's a nice cut. It's a bit
yeah.
different. I do think it is about being oversized though.
Yeah,
because
that's
like
cool, I love
that
that.
is cool. But
Yeah.
like if it was fitted,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
feel right. It's a bit cooler than a puffer, isn't it?
Love that. Oh, I like that style on a bigger boy
Yeah, it's cute.
with some good trainers.
I mean, white jeans,
White
for
jeans
a
on a young boy,
It's just, it's not really.
I think you've got full control if you're
Yeah.
getting in that. Okay, so we've whittled it down. I'm going to start with baby wear. It's actually a little two-piece, so I thought you could get 2 outfits for the price of 1. Double it up with those little cute frill dungarees over the top. And I love this little cream quilted jacket. And then for little girls, so these are the marine jeans, which Zara do for all ages and are one of their best sellers. And I love that you can pair it with something a little bit more feminine. And then they do these divine little silver flats, which I would like in my own size. Some might say these silver trousers are quite out there, but I think with trainers and an oversized sweatshirt, it makes them really wearable,
it's so
doesn't it,
cool.
for a little girl?
Really cute. And then for baby boy, I've gone for this super cute little gingham dungarees. And it's got the buttons all along the bottom, so it's super practical. And I would just style that with a really simple little long sleeve top. Moving on to slightly bigger boy, I love just a really simple oversized t-shirt, and then these like cargo jeans are really cute, and they're just a bit cooler and a bit more on trend. And then moving on to more grown-up boy, I just love a really simple oversized sweatshirt like this round neck. I've just layered it up with a really simple tee. And then this, I just love the color. I love the pocket detail. It's padded, so it'd be like super cozy when it gets a bit colder. Maybe add a cool cap, really cool like chinos.
That's a cool outfit.
Really cool. And then with just nice white trainers with a bit of a pop of colour. I think they're like super cool.
So I think that's it. We found some real gems today. Lots out there on the high street. Everything will be linked below, and we'll see you next time.
You literally can't go wrong with the high street for children. There's so much gorgeous stuff. I wish I could fit into those silver trousers. How cool.
So cute.
Do you guys have go-to places for the kids?
Oh gosh, so many places, but I do love Arquette for the kids, and I do love Next as well, because I think the quality is really good.
Next is good.
Really, really good.
I love Zara kids. It's just the fashion that they have there. I just think is so brilliant. It's spot on, and yeah, really nice, really cute girls things.
Gorgeous. I've got a Swedish background, so
Have you?
I'm a big fan of Polani Pierrot.
Oh yeah,
which they last
they're
forever.
amazing.
Yeah.
Didn't they used to do those trousers that were slightly extendable for boys?
Oh yes, and on the waist.
Yeah,
they
and on the
last for
waist.
ages.
Yeah. Oh, I need to look that up. Some Scandi brands are beautiful for kids, aren't they? And Spanish too.
Yes,
I love little
really
smocking. Tobi, you are master of the juggle. You literally have written a book on how to make the blend work, but even you must be daunted by the beginning of term madness. I know the summer holes are super tough for working mums, but I almost think the shock of back to school and normality is kind of harder than navigating the summer holidays. Can you give us some advice on how to best survive the onslaught of starting the new school year, nurseries, go back to work, the lot?
It's so hard, isn't it? Especially if you've just come out of summer and you've had a slightly different flow to your day, and all of a sudden you're having to get back into this routine. I think everybody also has a very different relationship with routine. I quite like routine, so I'm like, hurry up, give me this routine back. But I have found actually taking the pressure off myself is actually really, really helpful, and I'd advise everybody to do it. I often find the moments where our anxiety rises and our blood pressure rises is where we're thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to get out of the house, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And actually just trying to slow down in the mornings, which can be quite difficult, but just adding an extra 15 or 10 minutes or 5 minutes even to that prep time in the morning. Because often I think the children get wound up and then you get wound up because nobody's doing what you want them to, but actually it's because everybody's just rushing. But just slow down and just have that extra 5 minutes. And sometimes that extra 5 minutes can just be a cuddle, because that's sometimes what your child needs in terms of reassuring. You calm them down. You also calm yourself down and think, right, we're going to reset, and then try and get out the door. So for me, that's something that I'm trying to do, is actually just really slow down in the morning. Doesn't mean I don't shout and lose my cool in the mornings, but just also just kind of really slowing down. And also I think a bit of a mindset change in terms of, I think a lot of us often feel guilt sometimes when we're kind of going back to work, but I was on a podcast with this wonderful lady called Zoe. Her podcast is Motherkind, and we were talking about actually there's a study that says you just need 15 minutes with your child, or your child just needs 15 minutes with you a day, and that's it. They just need 15 minutes of connection. And when I heard that, I thought, my goodness, I've been stressing about, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, because I'm working and I'm here, there and everywhere. But actually just taking in that they just need 15 minutes of good quality time with you, and they're happy, and it fills up their love tank.
I presumably that's the minimum, but like, so there was a study that said that, and it's that in-person, very focused, present is the word I'm looking for.
15 minutes of present time, and I think that if you can achieve that a day, and I think most of us probably can with a book or something, it just takes the guilt away, feeling, oh my goodness, I'm going back to work, or they're going back to school, and we're heading back into this routine. And I think guilt is something that we all just place upon ourselves unnecessarily.
But not dads. I swear they don't.
So, I don't know, it's really interesting. I haven't done lots of research on this, and Emma, maybe you've got some research, but at my dad's 50th birthday, he was saying that he actually used to feel dad guilt about how he was working so much, and maybe he wasn't present and there for us in the way that he wanted to be because he was out working. But we had like a montage of photos, and then he looked back at those photos and he was like, actually, I was there for the moments that really mattered. So I do think dads probably feel
I think maybe it's in a slightly different way and less of the day-to-day constant running guilt of we're not doing enough, or we're doing too much, or we've said the wrong thing. It's probably just a bit less of that day-to-day constant guilt that is going on.
It sort of comes back to expectations, you know, what we were talking about before, because if for a dad the guilt comes from I'm not really spending enough time, and I want to be able to spend more time in that relationship. Whereas for mums, often the guilt comes from not only am I not spending enough time, but the house isn't tidy enough, or I haven't fed them the right foods, or I haven't, you know, promoted their intellectual development, or whatever it might be. I think mums often put more pressure on themselves to meet expectations that are much more idealised.
And I think perhaps we're having more conversations as well with our peers and our friends about parenting. So when you hear that somebody else's child has read 15 books this holiday, or you know you're constantly almost pitting yourself up against other people and then feeling like you haven't done enough. So perhaps again maybe dads aren't really talking about that. They're having other conversations that aren't always about their kids.
It's funny. It's one of the reasons why I call my book The Blend and not The Balance or anything else, because I think it literally is taking about the different elements that you need to make it work. And it's really interesting when men read it, they actually realise, my goodness, I should be doing way more. So men, read The Blend.
Charlotte, have you got any tips for this time of year?
Well, definitely. I think, you know, we've all had these conversations about the guilt and the putting pressure on. And the main thing I try and talk to parents about is taking that pressure off. So we are constantly having really high standards, whether that be what we're feeding or the education. And I think that sometimes we need to try and do that with ourselves when it comes to food as well, because one of the things I often say to parents is if you're thinking about what you're feeding your kid, if you're thinking about it a lot of the time, you're probably doing a lot better than you think, and that can make a huge difference in and of itself. But one thing I do, and since my book, How to Feed Your Family, I actually started writing that because I was in the throes of really struggling with parenthood. I had 2 young kids, my daughter just being born. I really struggled with everything, including feeding a growing family. And so that is exactly why I wrote my book, because I just found the overwhelm too much and I wanted to try and simplify it. And one of the things I've done is I've been able to set aside around 2 hours a week where I am focusing on meal prep. I get myself sorted for the rest of the week, and it makes such a difference just having a couple of bulk meals in the freezer, having some snacks that are really grab and go and easy, and that's all I do now. So a bit of menu planning, which I know doesn't sound very sexy, it's not very exciting, but it makes such a huge difference to the week. So, you know, menu planning, couple of hours aside, prep some meals, pop them in the freezer in, you know, different portions, and grab them out during the week as and when you need them. Because honestly, on a Wednesday afternoon when you are running about like a headless chicken, you will be so grateful to have that meal in the freezer. And other than that, just, you know, fridge raid meals, the odd freezer meal that you've bought from the supermarket, please don't punish yourself. It's absolutely fine and it's perfectly normal.
Out of interest, when do you do that meal prep? Is it like a Sunday afternoon?
Sunday morning, I do it, and I get my husband to take the kids out. Sunday morning or Saturday morning, couple of hours, podcast on or music on, and I actually really enjoy it. It's actually really enjoyable. It's 2 hours alone. Sorry, did I say? No one's crawling around my feet. No one's going, Mum, in the background. And it is actually really pleasurable. And I really love podcasts. And so rarely do we actually get a chance to listen to it. It's like 10 minutes in the car on the way home from the drop-offs. But it's really nice. I really enjoy it.
I feel like I need to exude this meal prep energy. Like I love watching meal prep. I don't love doing it. I need to shift to actually doing it.
I do enjoy a bit of cooking. I do enjoy it. But I think if you feel like you're doing something, you know, like we said, ticking off a to-do is productive. But also having a bit of me time with the podcast or a cup of tea or a glass of wine on a Sunday morning.
Who knows what they're going to get in that freezer?
I am going to add, though, that I hope you also do something for you that is nothing to do with the family.
Yes.
Because we often do that, right? Where we kind of go, well, you know, I'm going to go to the supermarket and that's going to be my alone time. Or I'm going to do the meal prep. And you put something on, like a podcast, to make it feel more pleasurable. But it's so important that we also have that time that is just for us. And that is not self-care.
That's not,
right?
no, it's not. It is just I do enjoy it, and I know it's going to absolutely save me during the week when I'm running around and I'm a bit mad. And I do. I've been so much better. Again, one of the things since reading your book, the self-care and the switching off at 9 o'clock in the evening and reading books, which I haven't done for 2.5 years since my daughter was born. And so, I'm doing it, I promise.
I love the book swapping of tips.
Oh, thank you guys. Okay, I feel much more prepared now. Next up, take a look at the fabulous Sarah Corbett-Winder on a shoot with her 3 gorgeous children and a very sweet dog. I definitely don't think there was much downtime here.
Go time for real. how did the makeup go this morning?
It went really well. It was a bit of an early start, so we started at 8 and then we just went for a really like fresh, like glowy base, and then Sarah's got these amazing eyebrows, so we just kept things really, really natural, and a bit of colour in the cheeks, and yeah, and toned her hair, and she looks great.
So the reason we're shooting this camera in this setting with Sarah and the kids on the day out is because it's meant to be, it's like an upgrade from your smartphone, so it's quite light and fits in the bag. It just takes better images, like the autofocus is super quick and it takes pictures like of fast moving moments quite quickly, like, and low lighting as well, which is great. And it's, you know, super easy to use, like it's targeted at people like who don't want to necessarily over-fuss. We've got obviously the whole park, but there is like a little petting zoo, which is where we're going to go first, I think. Entertain the kids, and then it's like, you know, it's like a nice part of a day out, I guess.
Here comes Margaret. Margaret!
Have you been introduced to Margaret yet? So I just love when animals have human names, like Richard the dog, Margaret the dog. It's just perfect. It's got main character energy.
Fantastic job! Yay! We're just trying to get like really natural kind of caught off guard shots of Sarah and the kids. It's kind of like following them on a day out, so it's really nice just to get natural interaction and the kids' reactions, and like the animals are great here. And then Sarah's got the Canon camera, so we're going to get her taking some shots of the kids, and the kids are going to be taking some shots as well. And the clothes for today, they're just really like summery, like Sarah's wearing this gorgeous white dress from Wiggy Kit, which is just stunning. And the kids are all in like really nice neutral colour palette.
You stay right there, Celeste. Yes. Yay! Best Monday ever.
Look, we're in our stripes.
Oh my god, look at us matching. We got bubbles for the kids, a little fun activity. Aww, memories. Here we go. My job is very hard. I work very hard for this. Yeah, I think that's perfect though. I think the more natural it looks.
So we've gone for slight co-ord. So Nancy is in a blue floral co-ord from Zara. Lion is in some tonal dungarees. We've gone for a green look with some green plimsolls. And I've gone for a short and a broderie anglaise top. All a bit tonal as well. I wouldn't say it's my typical day, but it's definitely an enjoyable day. Bye. Thank you for having us. Say bye, guys. Bye-bye. Nancy, say bye.
Oh, I love that so much. Thank God for the bubbles. The children are adorable, and Margaret the dog, so sweet. Of course, her dog's called Margaret. I think that just fits her so well.
It's so Sarah.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, I absolutely love her. And just the way she just does all her content with her kids, and it just doesn't flap her whatsoever.
She's got a good
it's
sense
just
of humour.
It's just part of the whole story.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I love it.
Back to your book.
Yeah,
Literally
exactly
taking
that.
notes right here. How do you make mealtimes fun and still offer a healthy diet for the kids?
I think that one of the things that gets a bit missed in the whole, you know, talking about food and what we're preparing is actually the where and how we eat it, because mealtimes are often lost a little bit, and this is kind of grab and go culture, or parents aren't necessarily having mealtimes with their children, which is totally understandable because there is so much going on in our lives, and actually sitting down, you know, and not being productive, as we've talked about today, is actually quite hard for, I think, for a lot of us as parents. But for me, if you're struggling with your children eating, or if mealtimes have become a bit fractious or unenjoyable, it can be really hard to try and get your family to eat and enjoy good food together. So one of the things I talk about a lot throughout all of the work I do is trying to make family mealtimes fun. And when I say that, it's going to vary from person to person what that actually means. But I think it's really about taking the pressure off those mealtimes. So rather than the, right, I've made you this, I want you to eat it. It's much more like we've been talking about today, about being present, about being there, about the conversations that you're having around those mealtimes. And even thinking about your own child and what they are going to enjoy. And I always try and say to parents, think about how you're going to help your child want to be part of that mealtime, because if they want to be there, that is a huge step towards getting them to accept the food that's on offer. And sometimes we need to take a step back from getting them to eat and just think, let's be here together. Let's be present. Let's have some conversation. Let's bring this kind of family mealtime back and pause everything else that's going on, even in our own heads. And that in itself can make that mealtime more enjoyable, pressure-free, more communicative, and just there's such an important aspect of this communication around mealtimes and being present and being together. And I just think that if we could do a bit more of that, it would make it easier on all of us.
I love that. How do you avoid cooking separate meals for the family and using every pot and pan in the cupboard?
Yeah, I think that is so, and one of the things I try and do in a lot of my recipes is try and make them one panners or just minimise that washing up, because when you're making one thing here and one thing there, it's overwhelming. And I don't know about you, but as I'm going through it, my mind's thinking, I've got to wash this up, got to wash this up, got to wash this up. And it is exhausting. So I think one of the things you can do, like I say, going back to that mealtime, that time together, sitting together, means that actually your children are more likely to emulate the kinds of things that you eat as a family. And I talk about this a lot, so from toddler and even baby age, trying to get them used to the tastes and the flavours of your own cooking as much as you can. Children like what they're familiar with, and this is one really key concept in child nutrition. They like what they are familiar with. So the more that we can allow them to see and eat and be exposed to the kinds of foods that we eat as a family, the more they will accept it. Not on the first go or the second go, maybe not even on the 10th go. But
heard that.
if you can do that from a young age and encourage them to eat similar foods to you, and then you're just making one meal for the whole family.
How long till he eats broccoli? That's my question. I love broccoli.
It does, I know. And it can, there are going to be some foods that children don't like. So you're not going to be able to get them to love and enjoy everything. But it is about that variety. So another thing we do as a family as well, sometimes if I'm offering a meal that I know might be a bit, my kids might not accept it, or maybe it's really new, I offer sides with it. So it might be that, for example, you've got pasta with bolognese sauce and there's some broccoli, but also there's some cheese and there's some peas. So people can also help themselves to bits of food. And there's actually a lot of research that almost Mediterranean way of eating, where you're helping yourself, gives kids autonomy.
Yeah. Right.
And again, it can take that pressure off you. Yeah. Everyone help themselves to the food that's on this table.
Yeah.
And that way, again, they can see you eating and enjoying food without pressure to eat it themselves. And they can have access to foods that actually are going to be more familiar or acceptable to them at the same time. But the role modelling and seeing you eat it will probably work eventually. My daughter, she's 3 now, and from when she started weaning, she would never eat egg. But because my son loves it, we've always offered just a tiny little bit on the side of her plate. And she's been through phases where she does not want that on the side of her plate at all. But actually, she now will eat egg. Not all the time and not huge amounts, but now she will actually eat it because it is more familiar to her. So we just give her the opportunity all the time, and again, role model and don't put pressure on. Yeah. And it really can make a difference, but it's easier said than done. It does take time and persistence.
I had a winner this weekend. So my eldest is 5 and she used to eat avocado and then classically stopped, won't touch it, and it's so nutritious and I love it. And I wasn't doing this on purpose, but I was, I remember seeing this a lot in France. You cut the avocado and in the hole put dressing. So I put this lovely French dressing, and she does like dressing, and she saw me eating it with a spoon. And she was so intrigued by the way in which it was presented and being eten, rather than, on the plate sliced up or whatever. Yeah. And so she took and she sort of went like that. And then she was like, well, actually, I didn't mean to go like that because I really liked it. Can I have one? And then 3 nights in a row, she's had one. I thought, winning, because that's now, going in there. But it was because it was, she saw someone else doing it. It wasn't actually pushing it on her.
The role modelling is such a big thing, I think sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to get them to eat that we forget about just sitting back and enjoying food ourselves. Because most of the time, in my experience, it's the parents who really love the food and just are a bit more nonchalant about it that actually have the children who really enjoy food more, because there is less pressure to eat it. And it is just, well, if you're not going to eat it, I'll eat it. It's that enjoyment of food that they learn from.
A bit Mediterranean then, isn't
exactly,
it? Where it's all quite
one
thing that changed a lot for the better was we go to the farmers market pretty much every Saturday, and because they're seeing, they run to the olive man now, and he knows them and he gives them, and I think that's great because you're not just seeing it on your plate,
completely.
You're seeing a little bit where it kind
My
of
kids love Borough Market, all the different
that's amazing.
foods. And now they love monkfish. I'm like, monkfish is not a staple. It's not a staple.
You have to get used to having to share your food as well when you do that, don't you? That actually, if there's something that you really love that you have allowed them to just be exposed to, then you might end up having to share it.
Yeah, and you're always ending up giving them the bits that you really want on your plate. Okay, fine. But you know, that's when you know it's all about that variety as well. You know, you want them to just enjoy a variety of foods, and that takes time. Feeding is a learning journey. It doesn't just happen overnight. But honestly, if you love food and you just show that without lots of pressure, it can have a really big impact. Not always, but it really can. And that's what I try and say to parents. Don't stress. Make those meal times enjoyable and it will hopefully fall into place.
And a quick tip for cooking on a budget. That's a big one.
Oh gosh, I talk about this so much in the book because it's really challenging at the moment. And the cost of food is insane. It is really hard. So I think one of the things I often do is sometimes shop at the end of the day, or sometimes if you've got food that you know that needs to be used right away. I have decided and really made an effort to make a most of my freezer. I know I've talked about my freezer a lot, but I tell you, I just feel like it's so underused. We do not use our freezers enough. And so, for example, some onions going off, dice them all up when you've got a minute, chuck them all in, and you've got diced onion that you can just throw in a pan the next day. It's such a time saver. It saves money. And the same with things like storing food. I think quite often we don't give ourselves enough time when we get home from the supermarket to actually prep and store those foods. So, for example, blueberries, incredibly expensive, but actually, if you rinse them in a tiny little bit of vinegar and pop them into a airtight container with some kitchen roll, they will last you more than double the amount of time. And it is such a good tip saving. And I go through a lot of that in the book because I think for me it was a real eye-opener of actually, I've got all this food in my fridge, but I can make it last so much longer by just spending that bit more time prepping. And also, don't be afraid of own brand. Quite often it's very similar or exactly the same as the branded options. So don't be afraid of using those. And last thing is freezer foods as well. So frozen spinach, frozen peas, frozen meats, frozen fish, they're all really, really great options. They last much longer and they're much, much cheaper. So don't be afraid of using any of those either.
Wealth of not stop. I don't want to stop the show, but that is it for today, guys. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to Charlotte, Emma, Toby, and of course Sarah and her gorgeous brood and the SL team. On next week's show, Georgie is interviewing a Hollywood actress. We are chatting fashion and we're hanging out at the SheerLuxe office, which is always fun. In the meantime, we would love it if you could comment below, give us a thumbs up, and do subscribe if you haven't yet. Have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.